Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. This is the TAFA and chart analysis for January 28th, 2002. We're coming up on the last weekend of January, and we actually did get over a couple of big scares this week. Notably, Jerome Powell, he did not hike interest rates, but he did actually say he would hike them in March. Probably. The earnings reports for Microsoft, Tesla, and Apple, people were afraid of that they'd be really down. They were actually pretty good. Microsoft was meh. Apple and Tesla were pretty good. Apple did actually announce that they were getting into metaverses now. And the Russia-Ukraine situation, it seems like Russia and Ukraine signed some kind of ceasefire, but America wasn't involved. I'm not actually sure what's going on there, but people in Ukraine are saying that it's less likely that Russia will invade now. Now, regardless of what the U.S. does, and I don't really care what the U.S. does, as long as they don't invade, the markets can actually settle down. If you look at the 5-day chart right here, you can say that in general, over the 5 days, we are actually trending up. I mean, like, we have the highs here, but since the 26th, we have not reached a higher high. But I don't think we can actually rely on that right now, because if you go back a month on here, you can see that we did actually dip down around the 20th and the 22nd pretty severely. And right after we dipped on the 20th and 22nd, from the 20th to the 26th, we had from the 20th to the 26th, we had a similar recovery as we did from essentially the 24th to right now. But after a while, it did drop down. Now, the thing is, like, when it actually did drop down, the peak that was achieved was about $39,000. And we're still quite a little ways from that. We're about $1,400 away from that specific peak. So that is actually kind of problematic right here. And as Bitcoin is following the stock market, you definitely have to follow the stock market signals. I mean, the thing is, like, we have seen this kind of drop before, and because we haven't achieved the $39,000 peak, we could drop down another level that could actually even be lower. But right now, it does seem like we're in a small upper, like we are in like a kind of like a descending triangle thing. I think we might actually go up tomorrow, next week, but that actually has less to do with the TAs than what I actually heard this week. The Dow Jones did drop massively early in late last week, early into this week, and it didn't drop nearly as massively later this week. In fact, today it actually went up 500 points. Now, definitely still way off its all-time highs of last year, but it did go up 564 points. The earnings reports were actually pretty strong, and it was an extremely wild and volatile week. So we will actually have to look at what happens next week. But because the earnings reports were pretty good and the interest rates didn't get hiked, I am actually cautiously optimistic for next week on the stock market. And because I am cautiously optimistic on the stock market, I am cautiously optimistic for cryptocurrencies as well. So the thing is, like, if we do have a black swan moment, or if we do have a flash crash, I would definitely take advantage of that and buy. Right now, like, based on the stock market performance, we might have actually seen somewhat at least of a bottom. And I would definitely be DCAing right now if I was actually buying more, because I'm not really sure if it's going to drop anymore, especially if we hit like 40,000 or above. That could mean we're really kind of like we could actually break out. And obviously the magic number right now for me is still around $44,000 to signal, like, for the first major signal that we'd be an uptrend. 44, 48, and 50 are the ones I'm looking for. But if we actually break around 39, 40, we could actually have higher bottoms and a higher high since this last drop. And remember, this last drop actually occurred because Bitcoin followed the stock market. And if the stock market gains back a couple thousand points in the next 2 weeks, and now that the futures on Bitcoin has actually expired, I definitely think the market might be in a bullish mood than late January. So hopefully we can recover a little bit next week, at least hold above 40,000, and that I think that could actually be the start of recovery. But the thing is, there is a very good chance that we kind of stay low or sideways for the next 2 to 3 months, and you'll have to wait till like late spring, early summer for kind of like a real revival of the crypto market. Right now, volumes are still very low. Retail investors are not interested, and people are still somewhat de-risking assets. But good performance reports and good profit reports from the tech sector have helped bolstered us late this week. So hopefully we could actually become much more positive next week, building off of like Apple and Tesla and even somewhat Microsoft as well. So right now, like the market news looks fairly positive, but it's very volatile because the Fed isn't giving any guidance and we don't really know what the Fed is going to do. So screw the Fed, but the earnings reports are actually looking pretty positive. So hopefully we can build off of that momentum. As long as Russia doesn't invade Ukraine, that front should actually be okay. If you look at the technicals on the 1 day, the simple moving average has actually switched to buy, but the exponential moving average is still on a sell, but it's only on a sell by about $200. So the EMA for the 10 and the SMA for the 10 are telling mixed signals right now, and the EMA is higher than the SMA, which means like weighted for a daily, we could actually have a very short-term trend up, but longer trend, it's still on a downtrend in the longer term. And, we really have to get around 50,000 almost to actually like break that downtrend. So once again, 44, 48, and 50 are the 3 points I'm looking at. But if we get to 40,000, the EMA and the SMA for the 10 at least, and maybe for the 20, will actually swing positive. So that indicates some good short-term momentum. I think we're starting to build that right now, but we'll have to see. I still have to see 2,000 or 3,000 more points to confirm like some short-term momentum. The oscillators are pretty much neutral. The momentum is getting like less negative, so that's on a buy. The MACD, however, is still negative. Everything else is pretty much neutral. Right now, if you're buying for very, very early next week, maybe it's a buy, but otherwise, I would definitely just either DCA or hold my money back right now, because any kind of bad news could send the markets into a spiral, either for the stock market or for the crypto market. Joe Biden's executive order is coming down next week. I don't think it'll have anything directly affecting crypto prices, but it will instruct the federal agencies to actually provide a framework, but that's not going to be reported for another 3 to 6 months. On the weekly, the oscillators are actually swinging pretty positive. The commodity channel and the stochastic are both buys because they are both oversold. And on the weekly, a lot of stuff actually looks oversold. Momentum is turning more positive, even though it is still negative. And a lot of the advanced statistics are actually looking at buy. So on the weekly, maybe for the next week or two, the oscillators are actually saying buy. The exponential moving averages still say sell. Obviously, like from the 100 down to the 200, we've moved up a little bit. So we are actually on the buy range on that. But I really only look to the 50. And that's all fairly strong sell right now. So the moving averages haven't really changed, because we need to go up by far, far more than we have for the moving average to actually change. But the oscillators are actually looking for for the next 2 weeks, the oscillators right now are actually looking kind of positive. So once again, if you're buying on the weekly, I would probably buy for the first 2 weeks of February, but probably not much else besides that. But it's still very, very risky to buy because the situation in Russia and Ukraine is still kind of tentative. And also any kind of bad stock market move could actually send crypto plunging down. In terms of the monthly, the oscillators are pretty much neutral. The momentum is negative, and so is the MACD level. But and the moving averages are, the exponential for the 20 has actually turned positive because of today. But right now, I'm only really looking at the 10 months, and that's still pretty strong sell. We have to get into the mid 40,000s to actually change that. So right now, I don't think I would actually buy on the monthly at this point. I don't really know if February's end is going to be better than January's end. I still want some things to settle down. And maybe after the rate hikes in March, we can actually make a decision. If the rate hikes really, really hurt the market in March, then we might be bearish for quite a while longer. But if the rate hikes don't really affect the situation in March, I would say like we could definitely swing bullish within a few months. So that's what I'm actually looking at right now. If you're buying for like early next week or the first 2 weeks of February, maybe it's like a slight buy right now. For the rest of it, is definitely still not in buy territory yet. And there's a lot of news that could actually move both the stock market and the crypto market, plus regulations and the executive order coming down next week. Very, very risky to buy now, but like big risk, big reward. It could actually work out well in a large way. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.